Let's get more perspectives, particularly within the Gaza Strip. I'm joined now by journalist Mona Kandil, who is in Palestine. Thank you for joining us on the news this hour. What would you say has been the latest reaction within the Gaza Strip, particularly following the Israel's position on the complete blockade and intense onslaught on that part?
Well, that's right. Israeli Minister of Military Affairs Yoav Gallant said and gave orders that complete siege would be applied to the Gaza Strip. He said it clearly that the Palestinians living in the Gaza Strip will not have access to electricity, to food, to fuel, and that the people would be punished. It's collective punishment for the military, let's say, operation that was carried out and still going on by the Palestinian fighters and the resistance group of Hamas, the Al-Qassam brigades. On Saturday, unprecedentedly, fighters from the Al-Qassam brigades, the armed wing of the Hamas movement, carried out a surprise multi-front attack, as you were reporting, by Palestinians from the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian fighters breached the border fence. The Gaza Strip is a Palestinian area under siege, surrounded by Israeli settlements. People there are not allowed to leave the Gaza Strip. They are not allowed to enter Al-Quds or the occupied West Bank, or even to enter the lands occupied by Israel in 1948. Exchange of fire continued for several hours. A number of Israeli settlers and soldiers had been killed during this operation. At the end of the day, Palestinian fighters succeeded to take control over a number of Israeli settlements and towns surrounding the Gaza Strip, and also succeeded to arrest Israeli soldiers and Israeli settlers and took them to inside the Gaza Strip. The Israelis responded by carrying out airstrikes, by bombarding the Gaza Strip. At the time, we are speaking about over 800 Israeli settlers and soldiers had been killed in this non-stop operation. At the same time, over 560 Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, including women and children, had been killed. Homes, towers,
Mona,
buildings.
Quickly, talk to us about what happens after, because Hamas earlier on talked about targeting the Israeli International Airport with 150 rockets. And you understand the international dimension of that if an attack happens on a foreign plane. How quickly do you think this can escalate?
What happened in the first place was because the Israelis continued to attack Palestinians, whether in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, continues to allow Israeli settlers to raid the Al-Aqsa Mosque, this Muslim holy site, and to desecrate it, to raid Palestinian areas and kill people in cold blood. That was the reason why the Palestinians from Hamas movement carried out the operation. Now, Israel is carrying out bombardment of the Palestinians at the Gaza Strip, killed over 560 people. They declared a war. The Israelis are studying the option for carrying out a ground operation to the Gaza Strip. At the same time, the Palestinian resistance group said, while the Israelis insist to destroy residential buildings, and while the Israelis insist to continue with the blockade and to kill innocent people, to attack mosques, schools, and hospitals, then the Palestinians have the right to fire the rockets at the Israeli areas, including Asqalan, including Asdod, as well as the vicinity of the Ben Gurion airport.
So the Hamas charter is very clear about its goal of obliteration or dissolution of Israel and the creation of an Islamic state to replace Israel and other Palestinian territories. But I want us to talk about how divided the international community has been on this matter. Arab nations have now blamed Israel for the sudden attack by Hamas, and the West says that the Israeli nation has a right to defend itself. What do you foresee would be an international intervention, saying who's going to be at loss in this conflict?
No. It's never an issue of an Islamic state replacing Israel. The issue is way different than this. We are speaking about Jewish people who came to the lands in 1948. They occupied the areas. They expelled people in 1948 from their homes, and those Jewish people declared a state called Israel. Palestinians, the real owner of the lands, were forced out of their lands in 1948. They became refugees. Many of them are still living in the occupied West Bank, in Gaza Strip, and at the same time, the Israelis, while we are living in the occupied West Bank, and it should be a liberated or a free areas under the control of the Palestinian Authority. However, every day Israeli soldiers raid Palestinian areas, cities, refugee camps, and towns. They give a green light to the Jewish settlers to confiscate private Palestinian lands and to annex it to the illegal settlements, to kill people in cold blood. They are preventing freedom of worship in Al-Aqsa Mosque, freedom of movement. Now the issue is in the Gaza Strip. However, here in the occupied West Bank, we are speaking about numerous checkpoints. The Israelis had literally cut the areas in the occupied West Bank, so people cannot move from north in the occupied West Bank to the center of the occupied West Bank or even to the south. People cannot leave their cities without being faced at numerous Israeli checkpoints. And in the last few days, over 15 young Palestinians had been killed here in the occupied West Bank just because they were taking part in peaceful and popular protests to express the rejection of the Israeli bombardment of the Gaza Strip. Hamas and the Palestinian resistance groups, the people of the Gaza Strip, are clearly saying that the Palestinians have the right to defend themselves. Why the international community is not moving when Israel is killing people in cold blood? Why the international community is not moving when thousands of Palestinians are being held in Israeli jails? Hundreds of them are held under the so-called administrative detention without charge or trial. However, when the Palestinians try to defend themselves and kill Israeli soldiers, we are speaking about fully armed Israeli soldiers, then the international community will say Israel has the right to defend itself.
There are a thousand questions of what could have been done, in the past. But I wanted us to focus on what should be done now to save life and property. As we speak, the Hamas group has confirmed it's taking hostages or prisoners of war, as it likes to call them. Is there room for a form of negotiation to cease fire at this time?
Well, Hamas movement said that those Israeli settlers and soldiers that had been arrested by its fighters and had been taken to inside the Gaza Strip, they will make sure that they are safe and sound. They will do their utmost to keep them living in a good way, in a way or another, because at the end of the day, they will be using those Israeli prisoners in any future swap deal. Today, we are speaking about 5,000 Palestinian prisoners, including women, elderly, children. Hundreds of them are facing numerous life sentences behind jails. So the Hamas movement will try their utmost, maybe in the future, to reach a swap deal with Israel, return back those Israeli soldiers and settlers, and at the same time make sure that the thousands of Palestinian prisoners are freed. On the top of them, women, elderly, and children. Now, the most important thing that must be done is to stop these massacres. The Israeli massacres must stop immediately. This is what human rights organizations are saying. This is also what Arab and Islamic countries are saying, because the footage coming out from the Gaza Strip are really terrifying. Children are being killed in cold blood. Destruction everywhere. So the most important thing now is to end this kind of war as soon as possible and to stop the bloodshed.
I'm wondering how well the Palestine military is pushing back. How safe is the West Bank where you are right now?
It's safe inside the cities. However, if I now decide to leave the city of Ramallah to go to the nearest city from Ramallah is Ariha, Jericho. However, all the roads leading to Jericho had been completely closed. The city of Al Khalil, also known as Hebron, it's one of the largest cities in the occupied West Bank, is also closed by the Israelis. The military crossing the Qalandia military checkpoint, it's the only entrance that Palestinians use to leave Ramallah and the areas around it and to enter Jerusalem. Al-Quds had been closed and people are not allowed to enter Jerusalem. We have to say something, that even though Palestinians living in the occupied West Bank need special Israeli issued permits in order to enter Jerusalem, Al-Quds, and to go visit the Al-Aqsa Mosque. But today, even those who had the Israeli issued permits are completely banned because there is a closure. The areas in northern, the occupied West Bank, like the cities of Nablus, Tulkarem, Jenin, and Qalqilia, of course, all these areas had been also closed by the Israelis, and numerous checkpoints would be preventing people
I'm afraid that's our time, Mona,
or to leave these cities.
We're looking forward to a peaceful resolution of this conflict for the sake of millions of innocent people who are at risk of fire. Mona Kande is a journalist who joined us live from Ramallah in Palestine. Thank you so much for talking to us.